Hi, welcome to Lori Krein's Art Studio. I'm glad you could join us today. If you were with us last week, you saw the beginning of a project that I've been working on. It's a collage inspired by a painting by Britto. So today we're going to be finishing that collage, and I'm glad that you came back. And if you didn't see last week's show, then you can watch it online at createtvsj.org and type in my name in the search for a show field, and you should be able to watch last week's show. But before we get on to our project, I want to remind everybody that the time of our show is going to be changing, the time and the day. As of August 15th, 2010, we're going to be airing on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m., still on Channel 15, so I hope you'll tune in to watch then. Now today, and also I want to remind you can visit my website, lorikreinstudios.com. If you want to send me an email or check out my other artwork or find out information about workshops that I give. And also, if you have any ideas for projects that you might want to be, either you can be on the show with your project or that you want me to try, then please send them along. I'd love to hear from you. Now, the creativity tip that I have for today is about enhancing your creativity. And what I want you to do is, next time you're in an art gallery or you see a piece of artwork anywhere, write down, look at the piece of art and find a piece if you can, if you see something you don't like, or one that you created that you're not happy with, and write down why you don't think the piece was successful, or why does it bother you, or what don't you like about it. That'll just give you more information about when you want to be creative, things that you don't want to do. And another idea is to open the dictionary to a random page and just put your finger down onto any word and then write a paragraph or a page about how that word makes you feel. Do you get any visual images from reading this word? Could you use the word as inspiration for a collage or a painting or a poem or whatever it is that you do? So those are a couple of ideas that you could try. Now, the collage that I'm going to be finishing up, well, I'm going to try and finish it today. I don't know if we'll get it all done, but it was inspired by a magazine cutout that I found in an art magazine by, the artist's name is Britto, and you can get more information about him and his artwork on Britto.com. That's Britto, and he's based in Miami, Florida. And I just happened to see this painting in a magazine. I didn't even know who the artist was at the time, and I just loved it because it was bright and colorful, and I thought I might be able to make a collage out of it. And now, of course, I won't be selling this piece. It's just for me to experiment with different techniques. So thank you, Romero, for inspiring me to do this kind of collage work. So I want to show you the finished product. This is the piece that I did, that I finished. And so last week I showed you how to get the piece started with tracing, making a grid and drawing it on the canvas, tracing it and cutting it out. And that way you can sort of make a pattern for the paper that you need to cut out in the little sections, and that makes it easier to put it together. So it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So today, I'm going to put that down. Now, between last week and this week, I have done a little bit more work on it. All I've done is I've cut out a few of the pieces already, just to make it a little bit easier to show you what the steps are to put this together. So I'm going to get out, and we're using the mostly Lokta papers, as they are pretty eco-friendly. They come from Nepal, and it's L-O-K-T-A. You can get them, if you search, do a Google search for Lokta, you'll be able to find all different kinds of these papers, and they come in all different colors, and you can order them online or get them from an art store. And they come in these large sheets, and they're eco-friendly, as I said before, because they come from a renewable source of these bushes that are grown on the hillside. Okay, so, and we need our acrylic matte medium glue as our adhesive, and it's watered down to make it less thick, because when the typical use for this glue is to use with acrylic paints to smooth it out a little bit, make it easier to paint with the paints, but it also serves as an adhesive. So that's what I use on my collages. You want to have this brush that I'm using is a 1/2 inch. It's 5/8, and it's a flat comb brush. I also have a 1 inch flat comb brush as well. What does this say? Flat wash. And I really like these brushes. I got these at Michael's Craft Supply, and they were pretty inexpensive compared to some of the more expensive brushes. I also have a number 10 round brush that I use to, sometimes when I want to tear paper, I just wet it on the place I want to tear it with water, and then it's easier to tear. I also have some skinny brushes that I'm going to be using later to draw the black lines on the collage. I have a nice eraser that I used earlier when I was drawing, magic rub, and a ruler. Okay, so since last week, I have cut out some of the pieces of this guy's face so that I can adhere them. Now, in case you weren't here with us last week, I just want to go over really quickly what it is that I did. So I took my original cutout of the picture of the painting I wanted to do, and I folded it into, I folded it in half, and then I folded it in half again, and then folded that in half and that in half. So the purpose of doing that was to make a grid. And now that I have a grid on here, it's easier to transfer the image onto the canvas and make a grid on your canvas and then just match up what's in each square from here to there. It just makes it easier. The next thing I did, sorry, excuse me, I put this back here, is I traced it off the canvas onto tracing paper, and then I cut it up into small sections to make it easier to cut it out of the paper. And that's the process. So now the next step is to glue, is to cut the shapes out of your decorative art papers and then glue them onto your canvas. So like I said, I've already cut some of them out, so I'm going to be just gluing down a few things now. And when you cut the tracing paper apart and then you trace it onto your papers here, you might get a pencil line. So I'm just going to erase that pencil line with this magic rub eraser because I don't want anybody to see that. But if you end up with it, it's not really going to matter that much because you're going to be going over the lines with a black, paintbrush, black paint. All right, so I'm just going to start gluing down some of this paper, and this is a piece of the Lacta paper, and this is a color, sort of a pinky color, and this is going to be his neck. So on these papers, the thicker papers, I always put the glue on the back of the paper itself, as opposed to putting it on the canvas and then laying the dry paper on top. And the reason I do that is because you really want to make sure that the paint gets absorbed into the paper, because if you don't, you'll end up with air bubbles and buckling, and you don't want that. So it absorbs right into the paper, and you just have to keep adding a little bit more, make sure it's nice and thick, and then you just set it right into its spot. Now I always put more glue on top after I put the paper down, and the reason is because I want to make sure, again, that it gets absorbed into the paper and I have a nice flat surface when I'm finished. So I just put the glue right on top with my brush, and I just kind of work it in. Now you don't want to have any white showing of the glue. If you have a glop showing like this or whatever, it's going to dry a milky white color, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that you've gotten all of the glue, all the excess glue off of the top of your paper after you glue it down, and you just wipe it here on your can, and you just need a nice light touch. If you want to, you can take your finger and run over it, and that will ensure that you get rid of all the air bubbles. Okay, now I'm going to take this little blue piece and I'm going to do the same thing. Move this out of the way. I'm just going to put the glue on the back. Now this blue paper, for some reason, is one of the few that I've gotten out from this Lacta paper that actually bleeds. So you have to be a little bit more careful with it when you're working, and it will get on your fingers. So it does come off eventually. And then I'm just going to place it right in its spot, and I'm going to be a little bit extra gentle with my glue on top because I don't want that blue to smear all over the place. Okay, and over here, now I have a piece of thinner tissue paper, this black. So over here, I'm just going to put the glue down right on the canvas instead, because when you're using thinner tissue paper, the glue will absorb right through the paper, so you don't have to worry about it as much. And I'll just lay that right down on top of there, and then I'll put more glue on top again, and it pushes out all the air bubbles. And again, you want to get rid of all the white milky residue on the top and just keep working it in there. Now I've folded it over down at the bottom, and I want to make sure I've got glue down there for it to stick to. And again, if you want to, you can take your finger and just lightly, gently smooth it out. Get rid of any air bubbles there, any bumps. All right, that's good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on his face. Now I've cut that out already, so I just need to. Again, this is very thin tissue paper. It's kind of a purple, like a lavender. So I think I'm just going to put the glue on the canvas for this piece as well and see how that works. Hopefully it'll stick, and if it doesn't, I can put glue on top and it should just stick right, it should just go right through because this paper is so thin. I want to move that eyeball. Put that on next. So you just want to cover the whole area, again, not too thick, but a nice even coat so that everything sticks down nicely. And then you just lay your paper right on top and you just smooth it down. Now I know that I don't have a perfect match as far as the shape of the paper with the shape of the drawing that I have down on the canvas, and I'm not going to worry about it because this is an abstract, or I shouldn't say abstract, it's an abstraction of a face. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not going for perfection here. I'm just going for something that looks cool. All right, so now I'm going to put this little eyeball on, and I'm going to put some glue right on there. Put it right inside the middle, and put glue on top. And while I'm doing the eyeballs, I might as well do his other eyeball. And I just cut this circle out of the blue block of paper. And I'm going to put that right down there. Again, you don't want to mess with the blue too much so it doesn't bleed all over the place. Now I'm going to do this eyebrow, which is a purple. It's the same color as the face. I think I put this upside down, so let's see if I can flip it over. Not that it matters that much, but his eyebrow is kind of going the other direction, so well, that's close enough. All right, now I'm going to do this a little heart over here on his face. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back of the heart. And this is a really pretty bright orange color. It goes right there on his face. I don't know, maybe it's some kind of tattoo the guy got, who knows. All right, so that's on there. It's starting to come together a little bit. Now I noticed that I've got a little bit of overlap here on his lips of the purple. So I'm just going to wet the paper a little bit, and I'm just going to push it back off of his lips. And let's see if I don't have to mess with it too much. I just want to make sure I get the shape of his lips because they're kind of cool. So there we go, that's better. See, it's just, you don't have to worry about cutting it or anything. You just push it back and there, now I got his lips back. Now I've got this half circle here, and there is a half circle on his face, so that's where this goes. So I'll put that on next. Some really interesting oddball things that Romero Britto has done, so I'm just going along with what he did. Now, again, last week I mentioned that after I finish this piece, this is sort of a practice because I've been wanting to do sort of portraits of my kids. So I want to take pictures of them and make them into collages. So this is one technique that I think I can do using that. All right, so what's next? There's another little heart up here in the corner. I'm going to do that one first. And then there's so many decorative elements to this. I love the hearts. That's probably one of the other things that kind of drew me into this piece was these really cool hearts. Okay, so now we have his hair. Now the deal with the hair is that it's 2 shades of gray. Let's look back onto the original. It's 2 shades of gray, light gray, dark gray, light gray, dark gray, and it goes that way all the way around, and then he decorated them with some black lines. So I've got the light gray, and I'm going to try and use this this other gray over here that I have, but I don't think I have the right shade, so we're just going to wing it and see what it comes out like. But first I'm going to glue this piece on, and this is kind of very thin paper, so I'm going to just put the glue right on the canvas this time, because I'm afraid that if I put the glue on the thin paper that it will tear while I'm trying to move it back onto the canvas. So I'll just put the glue on like that. And let's see which way it goes. Yeah, it goes this way. So I just lay it right on there, approximately. And then I want to smooth it out, sort of like wallpaper. So you're going from the middle, and you're holding this end up, because you don't want it to smush down too early. You want to be able to push those air bubbles out. So you start from the middle and just work your way down with the brush, with a little bit of glue on your brush, and voila. It will just sink right down there. So now we have his half of his hair. Put a little bit more glue on the brush, and then we'll simply do the other side. And he's got a couple wrinkles in his hair. That's okay. Now I'm covering up the R here, and the art, and the T. So I'm just going to fold the paper over so it doesn't cover up the T and the R as much. And I have some like white spaces and weird things going on here, but I'll figure that out later. When I get to the end, I'll see if I have to add a little bit, take away, or not, probably not take away, but add a little bit of pieces here and there to make it kind of finished. All right, so I've actually got the main elements now down. I've got a few more little pieces I have to put on here. I've got to section off the hair and see if I can work in the darker gray up in the hair area. But before I do that, I've got these green polka dots that he put on this jacket. So I'm going to try and put those on first. So this one, yeah, put them wherever. Doesn't really matter. And I've noticed that this green paper really becomes kind of transparent. So I don't want to put quite as much glue on here as I might otherwise. But let's see what happens. I'll put that down here. And maybe not put any glue on the top, because that will make it less likely that you can see through it. There we go. And I might put a couple more polka dots on there later, but for now I'm going to leave them. Okay, so I'm just looking to see what else I need to do, and I do need to cut out a little bit more paper before I can go on. And I have made a couple of different things, like for example, the eyebrows on the original, this one was a dark gray and this one was a darker purple, but I just decided to make them both purple, and I'm going to put a little bit of a darker one on here just to give it, oops, just to give it a little bit more definition. So I'm just putting a darker purple on top of there to make him have a more distinct eyebrow. And now, now you might see on these that the background, there's a background here of red and yellow, and that is a huge part of the work. So I'm going to do that at the end because of time. That will probably take me a little bit longer. So I'm going to hold off on that until later. But what I really want to do is I want to show you how different this is going to look when I start putting the black lines on it. Because right now, I'm going to turn this around so you can kind of see. I know you've been looking at it upside down, and I'm going to do the rest of this as it is upside down to me so that you can see forward. But I'm going to start drawing the black lines on here because I think it's important that you can that you see what difference it's going to make between now, which kind of looks like, I don't know, is this really going to come together? Put the black lines is going to be a totally different thing. So let's take care of that right away. I'm going to lay this here, get out my black paint, and this is just plain old, it's called Duncan Decorator Acrylics, and it's opaque, and it's black coal. So you can use any old black acrylic paint. The trick is that you want to have a very thin brush so that you have lots of control over what you're doing. Now all I'm doing is I'm simply, take my thinnest one, I just shook up my black paint and I have it in the lid. I'm using that as my little palette. So you want to start from the middle and work your way out. If you start from the edge and work your way in, your hand might touch it and smear it. So I highly suggest that you work from the inside out. So I'm just putting a little bit of paint on my brush, getting it a little bit wet. Oops, there's a little glop there. Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right, so it's going to be a little weird doing it upside down, but I'm going to try. So I'm just drawing over the lines that I drew earlier. Because it's like painting by numbers practically, huh? Do his eyelid there. I'm going to do his eye. And then his eyeball. I want to outline that. And then we'll do his eyebrow. And I tried to do this. I thought I was going to be able to do this with a Sharpie pen, with a black Sharpie, but it just didn't quite cut it. So I figured I would try the black paint, and it worked a lot better. It was just this nice, dark, thick line that worked really well. So you just keep going with this. And you don't want to make the line too thick. You want to have it just a nice, thin, even line. And I find it's easier to pull the paintbrush toward you instead of pulling it away. So I'm just going right up the edge of where the paper meets the canvas. And the other difference too is when I did this originally, I put white tissue paper on his face, because as you can see, most of his face is white. And you can choose to do that if you want. On this one I chose to just leave canvas. All right, let's do his other eye, because I think doing the eyes really makes a big difference in this particular piece. Now I see that I'm going to have to add some purple to around his eye, because I didn't quite get the right size of the purple there, but I don't know, maybe I'll leave it. We'll see what it looks like. It might look kind of cool. Let's make his eyelid. And then he's got a couple of lines under his eye, like that. And now I'm going to do these forehead lines. There we go. And this little heart here, which on the original, it was also chopped up into smaller pieces. And there was decorative elements inside of this heart, which I can still put on there later. But again, I wanted to give you an idea of what a difference it makes when you put the black lines around everything. There we go. And we'll do the mouth. Mouth is a very, very important piece of this painting. This is so much fun, I tell you. When I first started this, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I just thought, oh, this is too hard. I don't understand. How am I going to cut the pieces in the right size? And then when I figured out doing the tracing method, I started doing that, it really brought it together for me, and I found out that I was able to do this. So, you know, don't give up. Just give it a shot and see how it works for you. There's the mouth. And now I'm going to go down and do the rest of this line here that divides his face in half. Go down here and do this piece. Now we have to draw his chin and his neck and get that kind of just separated away from his face. And you have to keep dipping your brush into the paint. You're going to keep that brush nice and wet so you get a nice thick line. Now I went over a little bit here with the purple, so I'm just going to kind of go with that, and even though it's a little off, I don't care. I want to add a little bit of my own personality to this piece. You don't have to do everything exactly like the original artist did it. And then we go all the way up the side of his face, and now I'm going to draw around the half circle here on his cheek. There we go. And now I'm going to do his hairline. And you just keep going all the way around everything until you've got it all blocked off with the black. I looked on Romero's website, and he's got some amazing, incredible paintings that he's done, and they're so bright and colorful and cheerful and inspirational. I really suggest that you check them out. And again, it's Britto.com, Britto. And his work is just so fun. I hope that if I ever get to Miami, I'll be able to actually go meet him or see his work in person. That would be great. But you can still see him online. They're pretty spectacular. So I'm just going to go down here and do his ear. When you use these tiny brushes, the paint kind of gets used up pretty quickly. So just remember that. Keep dipping, and there's the inside of his ear. Just a few lines here and there, and it really makes a big difference. So I guess I might as well continue on with doing the outside of his hair, but I think I need a little bit more paint. So I'm just going to go in here and shake this up a little bit, and that should give me more paint. Oh, we only have 2 minutes left. Okay. Well, while I'm finishing up here, I just want to let you know that I appreciate your watching, and I hope that you'll go onto my website, go onto my Facebook page. I have a blog, LoriKreinStudios.blogspot.com, and on there I post a couple times a week about things that I'm working on or things that are happening in my classes, and I put pictures on my Facebook page to show the work that I'm working on as well. So there's lots of places you can find me online, and I hope that you'll friend me on Facebook and check out my blog. And that's funny, my phone is ringing. I don't usually have my phone on in here, but anyway, we'll just ignore that. Put that over here so it doesn't keep ringing. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I hope that you'll send me your comments, pictures, or whatever else that you're working on in your studios or at home. And I hope you'll find something creative to do today, and I hope that I've taught you something about how to get inspired by other artists and how you can, use other artwork to inspire you. Yeah, you're copying it, but what you're doing is you're learning. So this is a great learning process for you. So give it a shot, and have a creative day, and thank you for joining me. And don't forget, Thursdays at 6. Take care. Bye.